All right, guys, so throughout your year and a half to 2 years that you guys have been here, one of the things that you've heard from all of your design instructors is that design is a process, and that you have to engage that process or it doesn't work well, okay? And I know that many times people are taking English and they hate English, and they're taking trig and they hate math, and they're taking speech and they're taking all these classes. And so it's like, oh, man, I don't have time to deal with design this week, so I'm just going to kind of blow it off. And the way that design kind of tends to work anyways is that, well, you know, if I turn in a really good project at the end, that's how my grade's going to be determined. And I know that that's a mentality not here at Mount SAC only, but at every design school. And so one of the things that I think you guys saw that's very different this semester than it's ever been in any class here is that I upped the homework component way up. That's one. And number two, I made it to where the homework has to be turned in on Canvas, which date stamps it, and I made it to where there's no late homework. Okay? So that is one of the things that I'm trying to do. Hero and I are both trying to do this, is to try to engage the design process, get you to manage your time properly and engage the process. Okay? And that's crucial for you guys to know leaving here and moving on to another school. All right? Unless you're one of those people that happens to be like just a design genius that can just throw something out there, right? And it's good no matter how much time you put into it, you're going to have to work at it because there's not very many of those people. All right? So that's an important thing. So you guys have already kind of gotten a taste of that, in that I've asked you guys to take the 10 schemes that you came up with and just sort of figure out like where you would put them on the site, right? So this next step is going to go down that same path, okay? So the next step is going to be asking you to just, again, arbitrarily pick 5 of the schemes, different ones, right? And you can, like, if you want, you can take 2 linear schemes or whatever. And now that you're seeing where it's ending up on this site, and by the way, thank you very much for building these correctly. So this is a great way to do this because you can take the pieces out later and say you cut some and it wasn't what you wanted, you just have to replace those pieces. If you glue these together, all bets are off. But the next step is going to be to start to take 5 of the schemes that you guys have developed, even though, again, those schemes were developed completely blind of energy efficiency principles and stuff that you're going to be learning as we go through this process. You're going to take what you learned about water collection, and you are going to, in a schematic way, apply it to 5 of your schemes. Okay? So obviously, there's a lot of different places on this site that you can put the water detention basin, but you're not going to probably put it up here. Okay? And there are certain factors that you guys are going to have to sort of come to terms with in relation to adjusting topography to build that that detention basin, which brings up a very good point. I forgot to mention this the other day. So most of you guys built this thing, right? And what I'm going to need you guys to do is, you see that bottom layer that's the full trapezoid? I need you to probably get another 4 layers and put 4 layers under this one. And the reason for that is that you're going to have to carve down into it to make the detention basin. Okay? Is that clear? So for next class, Jeremy, that'll be one of the homework assignments, is that they give us a picture showing the 4, I'm going to quantify that. There needs to be 4 full-size sheets, 4 full-size trapezoidal sheets, not 4 more. Okay? So you're going to take that bottom one and you're going to go copy, 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 and now you've got 4. You got the original one and 3 additional. Okay? So we need to do that because you're going to be kind of carving the detention basin down into that. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay, so back to this whole design process and changing stuff. I have not, as far as I can tell, and I don't know, I'm not on your side, so I'm not on your side of the equation, but I've not asked for like really heavily detailed things, and I've not asked for stuff that you guys haven't done before. So my hope is that this hasn't caused you guys, you know, to have to do 2 all-nighters to do this stuff. But my hope is that you're able to kind of do it as part of a more normal workflow. That will eventually get back to more of a standard design process, which was going to require some of that. But right now, you guys are going to be kind of doing things, analyzing them, and then changing them. Okay? So the first thing you guys did was you put a bunch of rooms together in different configurations, right? And then I threw a curveball at you, and I said, hey, well, originally we were going to have a handicapped person, now we don't have a handicapped person. So now you've got to think about that. That may or may not precipitate a change. Then I asked you to put them on the site, right? So that was another iteration in this process. And then last week we had a discussion about water, or not last week, this week, at the beginning of this week, we had a discussion about water, detention basins, and the different types of water and water conservation. And so now that's going to have an impact on the schemes that you came up with. And I'm only asking you to pick 5 of them, right? And what you're going to find is that as we go through this process of learning about these things related to energy efficiency and sustainability, that you will inevitably be constantly breaking and remaking. There are several of you that are in the grasshopper class, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys can see that process in the grasshopper class is you make it one way, and then you tear it apart, and you have to change stuff because something changed and you're trying to get to a different point, so you got to do new things. You got to do it a different way. So you're constantly making and then reanalyzing and breaking. That didn't work, so you got to do it again. That is part of design. There's no way around it. No matter how good you are, it's part of design. Okay? All right, any questions about that? Yeah.
I know we talked about the square footage, so should we still be taking that into consideration, or is it up to us if we want to take that into consideration, like the footprint on the site?
You're talking about the surface area.
The surface area.
See, I did that so that you guys would become aware of the fact that the more compact a shape is, the less surface area it has, right? The less surface area it has, the less emissivative surface that it has. Therefore, that is one of many factors that will contribute to heat loss and heat gain. We talked about curling up in a fetal position, right? And the fact that you're trying to basically reduce the amount of surface area to not lose heat. And that's what that compact scheme does. That's only one of many things that we're going to talk about in these first few weeks. That's the problem. Scientists are lucky. They get to look at like one specific little thing and focus on it. You guys can't, because you know what? Your buildings are full of solids and gases and radiation. And your buildings have 1,000 different materials in them, not one. Okay? And the environment that your building is in is constantly changing. The temperature today is not what it was last week, and it won't be what it is in 2 weeks from now. The position of the sun is changing. So that's part of what makes this whole science thing in architecture so much harder, really more complex, and that's that you're dealing with all of these factors that all of a sudden come together. And that's only one of many different things that are going to come into play here. Okay? Are there any other questions related to this kind of notion of design process and why we're forcing the design process this time? Other thoughts about what we've talked about today?
Should we prioritize one of those factors more than another?
Right now, it'd be very hard for you to do that because you are kind of not working with a full deck of cards, right? It's kind of like those people that thought, okay, well, weight, right, is mass. And they didn't realize that, hey, there is no gravity in outer space. They were working with a full deck of cards. So you can, and that's part of the design process. You're gonna take a chance on something and see how it works. I mean, that's better than people that might not think about anything, but I'll guarantee you that the most compact shape isn't the most efficient shape in some climates and for certain conditions. Okay, so that's where it gets really complicated. How many minutes are we at, Ted?
10.
All right, let's stop that video and name it correctly so it's in the sequence.